Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Thank you for joining us on this quick lesson on easy chord moves. These are moves that you can do when a chord stays static for a while. Most guitar players will just kind of go and just be static with it. But a little trick that the pros do all the time is you add these little extra chords that go along with this. So instead of just doing this, you may throw a... So that's what we're going to talk about in this lesson. These little variations that come along with the chords. You hear them in all kinds of songs. I was listening to a video last night with Jackson Browne singing Running on Empty and going right through the same thing. Same chords right there. So we're going to be talking about that. Now there is a PDF that goes along with this. So it's in the link is in the YouTube description down below. So make sure you download the PDF before you get into it. All right, so let's talk about what the difference between just static and a regular chord or doing what the pros do and giving a little bit of movement to that chord. This is actually a tie-in with a previous lesson that I did. I'll put the link in the YouTube description talking about notes that you can add to specific chords to get variations in them. Now we're not talking about single notes. This lesson is talking about full chords. Okay, so take a look at the first example there. So if we look at the PDF on the first page there, the first one is we talk about, I'm going to give you some examples of chord moves in the key of G. Now these are moves that I use all the time that sound great on guitar, and no, I'll stay on this guitar. So let's take a look at the first one. If I'm in the key of G, but I am going to go fingerstyle here for a little bit. Okay, so if I'm in the key of G, you'll often hear me doing something like this. What is all that other little extra stuff in there? That's what's the first example here. So these are just my favorites in the key of G. In the key of G, I'm going to do kind of this open G form, but if I'm playing it fingerstyle, you don't have to do these fingerstyle. I'm just going to illustrate them fingerstyle. I'm using my thumb on the 6th string. I'm skipping the 5th string, even though the note is in the chord shape there. And then I'm doing the 6th, the 4th, the 3rd, and the 2nd string. So the notes I'm playing are a G, a B, a D, a G, a D, a G, and a B. There you go, there you go. So that's a basic G. Now I'm just showing you the basic shape. You can get infinitely complicated with this. Okay? Now I'm going to turn this, the little variation that we can add with this one is a C with a G in the bass. You can also think of that as a G sus. And what am I doing here? Well, if you look at it, it's kind of the bottom half of a C chord. Like there's a C, and I'm just keeping my 3rd finger, instead of on the C, I'm keeping it on that low G. And I'm just putting off and on my 1st and 2nd finger. And I'm muting out that 5th string. There I'm playing the full G with the high G there, but I don't have to. If I was strumming this, so in the chord diagrams there, you're going to see like the G, but the next chord you're going to have a C/G. Well, when you see two chords that are kind of next to each other like that, what's above the slash is the chord, what's underneath the slash is just the bass note. So it's not two different chords, it's a different chord and the bass note. So we have the G, we have a C with a G, G. This is exactly the chord progression in Running on Empty by Jackson Browne. That's all he's doing. All I'm doing is moving my 1st and 2nd finger onto the 4th and 2nd strings and then back off. It's a great little trick to have in your tool belt for doing chords. So if I got a G that I've got to hang on for 4 beats, man, that's a long time in music land. Or 4 bars maybe. A little hammer on there. look at the next one. This is the next measure. So that works. This works over any G major chord that you find in the key of G. There's also G major chords in the key of C, and so this would work there. Now, there's also, if you think about it, there's also G major chords in the key of D, but it does not work when I'm in the key of D and I'm playing a G chord, because this now altered C is going to give it kind of a bluesy sound, so if I'm in the key of D, okay, so now I'm in the key of D, and I come across G, it starts getting out of a kind of a bluesy sound when I do it that way. So it works better when I'm in the key of G and when I'm in the key of C. Take a look at the second one. Look at the next one over here. Now I'm going to elaborate this, and I'm going to get a little bit more fancy with it. So I'm going to go. Wow, what was all that? Same thing. G. I do a C with a G, and then I just move this whole shape up 2 frets, and I end up with an A on the 6th string, and then an F sharp on the 4th string, an open G. Oh, there's still that open G in there. Kind of gives a little wonderful little dissonance in there to the high D. First things I learned on guitar was to play, or first things I learned kind of professionally to sound good on guitar was that move. You can even do it in E minor too. It's cool. So I'm just moving little notes, single notes here and there. That other lesson on single notes is going to show you about the single note movement. So that's a good way to do that. That works great in the key of G major. Is if I'm ending a song. It's a great little trick to have. Now, to give a different sound, if I want to give a kind of a bittersweet sound, I can throw in a minor, a C minor. Okay, so if I'm doing this G, this is the 3rd measure now. Do you hear how that sounds different than the C major? C minor. It just tugs the harmonic ear a little bit differently, and it kind of gives you that sweet, that melancholy sort of a sound. If I want to try and pull that sound out, that's a tool that I could use. I can throw the 4 chord in the key of G. The 4 chord's a C chord, but instead of its normal major, I'm going to make it minor. Maybe even add that 6th to it, that A to it. Just twist the ear a little bit differently. It kind of has that sense of longing while this E flat wants to resolve down to that D. So there you go. Hey, there's my tricks in G. I wish I could say I have 1,000 of them. That's covers a lot of them. You'll see in pretty much if I'm doing anything in the key of G, I'm probably going to land on those little licks sooner or later. So take a look at the next one. Let's do it in a different key. All right, so let's take a look in A. If I'm in the key of A, what can I do in the key of A? Well, remember, there's different ways to play an A, okay? We normally standardly teach it as a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th finger. But this one, I'm going to do a bar. Okay, for our purposes now, I'm going to do a bar. So I'm doing the open A and then a bar on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string at the 2nd fret with my 1st finger. And then I'm going to come over for the 2nd chord. This is the bottom line there on page 1, the 1st measure. And I'm going to have a D in the bass, or excuse me, a D chord with an A in the bass. Then back to that A. Maybe I can even hammer on. playing them fingerstyle, but you can just as well be something more rocky. Let me throw in a little distortion there. So it's a cool little tool to have. You can use it in a variety of things. That's the first one. Well, what if I did it... Look at the second measure. I have an A to a D with an A, and then I just shift the whole thing up 2 frets. Now I have basically an E triad with an A in the bass. I'm going to move it back to the D in the bass, D chord with an A in the bass. Now I can add other tones to it as well. Let's see. Just different tricks you can do. I'm not saying this is the only thing you can do. It's just another little gag you can put in your tool belt of musical tricks. Okay. Now think about what we're doing. I'm in the key of A. The 1 chord, and I'm going to the 4 chord, a D, but I'm keeping that A, the root, in the bass to get some continuity to it. When I keep that A in the bass, it's like a line that is weaving through all of these different progressions. So it's a pretty little combination. Now, there are other things that you can do. Same shape, I'm just moving it around. We'll do a lesson maybe even next time on shape chords. Chords that you can move by shape and get some amazing sounds with those. All right, so that's my tricks for the first 2 measures in A. Now, if I wanted to do that same bittersweet sort of minor tonality in the key of A now, I don't do this one near as much because it just doesn't land as easily as the other ones. I have that, instead of F sharp A D, I have an F A D. That's that last measure there. Hey, I can even slide them up. All right, so I've shown you some great tricks in the key of G. I've shown you some great tricks in the key of A. These are both open keys. Let's go to another couple of open keys, and then I'm going to show you some movable forms as we finish this out. Look at the next page. This is page 2. Let's go to some E shape chords. So here's an E. Now, if I wanted to do a single note movement, maybe I could do add the suspended. Just adding 1 note. That's cool, that's hip, nothing's wrong with it. Another thing you can do is add another chord to it. And in this case, we're going to try an A6, which is a 3rd finger on the C sharp at the 5th string, 4th fret, F sharp on the 4th string, 4th fret, 1st finger on the A on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. And then if you want to add the open strings to it too, that's fine. That's cool. If you want to just keep it down to that, that's fine. So if I want to do just the bottom 4 strings, E, this A6 with an E, back to the E. Great little trick you can do in the key of E if you have to stay on an E chord for a long time. What am I doing? I'm just trying to give you options other than going, which is just, you want to create movement. You want to create a fascinating little musical entity. And with everywhere you kind of turn, there's different things happening with it. That's what I'm going for. I don't want a static sound. Just like in the key of G and these others, this one works great. This little trick works great when you're using an E chord, of course, in the key of E, but also in the key of A. It works as well. Look at the next one. Okay, well, can I move it up like I did the others? Well, you bet. Now, if I take this chord, which is the A6th over the E, and I move it up 2 frets, now I get this sort of weird, which is a B6th, G minor, if you want to think of it that way, G sharp minor. So it's just the same shape, I'm just moving it up 2 frets. Add a few slides in there, you sound like a guitar player. Maybe I can add these open strings as well. Oh, what is all that beautifulness going on there? Hey, I'm a guitar player. I just don't think that complicated. I'm just moving the shape around. But when you combine that with other open strings, you get all these wonderful, beautiful sounds. All right, so take a look at that. That's the first 2 measures. If I wanted to do the minor variation, the little bit of a darker variation of it, I can do an A minor 6. So instead of this shape for the A minor 6, I'm going to put my 2nd finger there. So it's going to be 2nd finger, 4th finger, 1st finger. I could even slide that up. So that one sounds like this. If I wanted to do them both. It's great little tricks that you can do on guitar that sound great when you combine it with open strings. I've done them in G, I've done them in A, we've done them in E. What can we do next? Let's try a few in D. And I gave you a few in D. I changed them around a little bit. So if I'm in the key of D, I'm going to go back to fingers a little bit. For the 2nd chord there, instead of going up, which we have been doing, to a chord that's further up the neck, this time I went down. So I went to a D and then an A with a D in the bass. Nothing wrong with going up, I just thought I'd go down this time. I had the option to. Now if I wanted to go up, I could maybe go to an E minor, 2nd finger, 3rd finger, 1st finger. Still keeping that D in the bass for a little continuity. A little drone, we call that in the biz, a drone. Hey, maybe I could combine them. There you go. Okay. Now, as I see some of you are putting in different songs. Greg Allman's "Melissa." That's song is for that. Another one is "Your Song" by Elton John. Uses some of these changes as well. If you look at the 2nd measure of the D chord in page 2, the middle line. If I just shift this up 2 frets, and then back down. So there I have all kinds of options. I could go down. If I wanted to add that little minor 6th sort of a variation, the bittersweet one. You hear how just that one note. There's major. There's minor. Listen for the sound. Here's a larger thought. Each note in a key, as it relates to a key, has its own special sound and purpose. Some of them are strong. The root of the chord is strong. The 5th of the chord is strong. Some of them are sweet and happy and major sounding, like the 3rd in any key. Okay? Some are darker and more brooding, minor sounding. That's what that note in the key of D, a B flat, he's a very unsettled. You can't end like that. He wants to resolve. Where does he want to go? He wants to go here. So it's a tone that's got a lot of pull on it. Each tone has a different character, a different sound in any key, and that is consistent through the different keys. All right, so there you go. We've done some open chord shapes, and those are my favorite ones in some different keys. And these are not the only ones by any chance. There are lots of other ones that you can do as well. These are just some of the more common ones. Now, there are movable ones that you can do as well. I put a couple of them down here. One of them I did, instead of the open A that we were doing, I'm going to put my pinky way over here on the 6th string at the 5th fret. Okay, so now I've got 6th string, 5th fret, pinky, then I'm muting out the 5th string, and then I have my bar over here. And then I put my D shape here. Hey, does this sound familiar? Hey, it's that little trick on guitar. Pinky on the root, that's the root. Now, since I'm not using any open strings, then I can move this 1 to 4 to 1. If I wanted to do it in C, it'd be, if I want to do it in B. Hey, let's throw on our distortion again. Actually, let's use a different one. Now that's a big stretch, so some of you may be struggling with the stretching part of this. Don't get discouraged with it. There's little hand exercises that you can do, finger stretching exercises that can help you get some larger spaces between your fingers with that. This particular movable form requires that. Okay, so that's one that works on 6-string roots, if you have a 6-string root chord. What if you had a 5th string minor, like a B minor 7th maybe? Okay, well, what can we do that to make it interesting? Well, hey, take this 3rd finger and the 2nd finger just off, so I'm just left with this, which is kind of an A with a B in the bass, B minor 7th to an Hey, what's China Grove, okay? That little lick there, that is the same lick. Minor to this full bar underneath it. So I've shown you some tricks to do it with open chords, major chords. This is the first one we've come across that's a minor chord. It's a cool little lick. You'll hear them in 1,000 different songs, okay? It's just a common thing that we can do on guitar. So there you go. There are some of my favorite open movable forms open chord forms that I use all the time, and a couple of movable forms for you. This is just a little something that you can add to your playing to make it sound just a little bit more, a little bit more pro in your playing. When you're adding something that is having a chord for a long period of time, you can throw these little movements in there. There you go. Hey, take a listen to that other lesson on this, the single note lesson as well. I'll put the link down in the YouTube description. Thanks for joining us. Learn all you can. We will see you next time.